What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, a man who does not like load management, but is wearing a shirt today that says, rest, win. Make sense of that one for me, Legs. Pro rest?
You don't see the last part.
Oh, repeat. There you go. Repeat. All right.
That's
right.
the motto of my life, Adam. Rest, get up, win, and then repeat it the next day.
There you go. It's a good motto. It's not load management. It's just resting after the job is done. That's team.
Exactly right.
Yeah. There's a new team that gets some rest. The Timberwolves, who beat the Lakers, they're going to get a little bit of rest before their round 2 matchup. They're still waiting on the winner of the Rockets-Warriors because the Rockets survived, not just survived, thrived in their comeback win over the Warriors. We're going to talk about that one as well. And we're going to preview tonight's games, which are great. The Knicks and the Pistons, the Nuggets and the Clippers. A lot's happened since our schedules are both kind of ridiculous this time of year. It's why we missed the last couple of shows, but we will have one today, tomorrow. We'll even have one on Saturday with Mark Stein, which will be great. But we missed a couple really good games and some big moments, but we're going to talk about last night's games to open this up. And that is, of course, we're going to start with the Timberwolves closing out the Lakers 103-96. And what was, in my opinion, a pretty ugly game, but at least a very interesting one. It was physical. And to me, where I'm going to lead you is Rudy Gobert. The redemption tour. The Lakers are tiny. They don't have a lot of big options at big. They didn't go to their big options, and Rudy Gobert made them pay 27 points, 24 rebounds, 2 block shots. This was a physical game. It was an ugly one, but the Timberwolves battled and won the battles in the paint. They won the battles on the board, second chance points. That's what stood out to me. What about you, Legs?
I don't even know where to begin, man. And first of all, I thought you were going to say another team's going to get plenty of rest, and I thought you were going to say Lakers because they're going to get a ton of rest.
They're going
to get all the rest they want. But you're right. T-Wolves get more time. I was watching this game. First of all, right from the very beginning, coming on the heels of what I had just watched with Houston, which came out of the gate so hungry and energized. And, we always use the word desperation a lot. I don't even know they were playing desperate. They were just playing harder than Golden State, and they were playing with an incredible amount of confidence. And they came out like a team saying, look, we're down 3-1. It's a hole that very few teams have dug themselves out of, but you're not doing it here. You're not going to get us here, not tonight. We're going to force this back to Golden State. And you could see that in the first 8 minutes of the game where this was going to go. And then it got really crazy later. We'll talk about that. Then you watch the Lakers-Minnesota game, and you get the exact opposite vibe out of the Lakers. I thought their energy was terrible. I thought their body language was bad at the start of the game. All of it. None of that felt like a team fighting for another day. That's what Houston came out and looked like. The Lakers didn't look like that. So let's just start with that. From just a mental readiness standpoint, I didn't think the Lakers had it at the beginning of the game. Your thoughts on that, first of all?
I mean, 100%, I agree with you. I don't think it was as bad as what the Warriors had because I thought the Warriors were really on their heels. But to your point, the Warriors were up in their series. The Lakers were down and fighting for their life. And, they did not match what Houston was giving you. Houston, the desperate team, the Lakers not. So I agree with that. But on the other side, and I kind of want to start this on the Timberwolves side because I think the Timberwolves are hungry and they play like it, and they could not make a shot last night. 7 of 47. We're going to talk about that. Worst 3-point shooting game in playoff history. But and that's the only reason this thing was close, and yet they still won all the other margins, including the ones that took grittiness and toughness. They were the quickest to the ball. They were the toughest on the rebounds when it was 50-50. And so to your point, some of that was Lakers, but I'm going to go the other direction and say a lot of it was the Timberwolves, who I thought just broke the will of the Lakers throughout the series. And then in a night when nothing went right, they still found a way to win because they wanted it so bad.
Yeah, look, they missed 43s, 40.
40 is
If they have even a decent, like not even average, like just barely acceptable by NBA standards 3-point shooting night, they win the game by 25. 25. Because they had all the looks they wanted. The Lakers were, I think the Lakers are more susceptible if they hadn't taken so many to continue to attack them at the rim. They had no rim protection. The amount of times that Minnesota put the ball on the floor from 25 feet and got to the rim was almost embarrassing for the Lakers. And it's because of this lineup that JJ Redick was married to for whatever reason. He got it into his head that we can play small. I say we can play small, and hell or high water, we're going to play small, and I'm not going to do anything about it. And because I know better, and this is what we're going to do. And if you didn't see, at some point in this game, you had to put Jaxson Hayes in the game. I'm sorry, man. It was embarrassing what Rudy Gobert was doing to them, not just on the offensive glass, like how easy the finishes were for him around the rim. It looked like, that every now and then you get that like 6'8", 12-year-old, that's playing in like a rec league game. Yeah, that's what it looked like. And it's like, wait a second, man. And here's the thing. JJ Redick, I know, doesn't really like playing bigs. He likes playing smaller, and he thinks, and I know this was part of their strategy, we're going to play Rudy Gobert off the floor. We're going to play him right off the floor because we're going to run these ball screens and get switches, and Luka or LeBron are going to have their way with him on the perimeter, either shooting over him or going by him. They're going to collapse, and we're going to hit threes, and they're going to have to get him off the court. Problem is, Luka and LeBron weren't winning those. No. Neither one of those guys. Austin Reaves either, who had one of his worst games I've seen him play in the last 2 years.
Bad series.
They weren't winning that. And at some point, if you're JJ Redick, that's your whole game plan is predicated on getting the switch and having Rudy Gobert extended on the perimeter and exposing him. At some point, man, you have to see that's not happening. So therefore, all the other stuff that you're sacrificing is now the dominant force in the game, which is his rebounding, his finishing ability, and his rim protection. So if you're not winning those matchups when you get the switches, you have to think about attacking them a different way and getting some size and athleticism on the court up front. Jaxson Hayes is the only guy you have that falls into that category. You're not playing Alex Len, and I can't believe they dusted off Maxi Kleber to get in this game. I couldn't believe my eyes. This dude hasn't played in 40 games.
Yeah.
And listen, I like him, by the way. And I think he's a good defender. He's a very good three-point shooter as a big. The guy hasn't played. He stood up, a dust cloud formed. I didn't even know he was sitting down there. And you're going to give him 5 minutes and you can't find any time for Jaxson Hayes. Adam, I'm telling you, man, the stubbornness and the JJ being married to this ideology, no matter what his eyes were telling him was happening on the court, cost them this series. Look, they might have lost it anyway. Minnesota's a really good team and they're red hot coming in. The fact that you don't make an adjustment the last 2 games of this series, to me, that falls right in the lap of JJ Redick.
So can I play devil's advocate here? Because I agree with you. I mean, look,
get the pillows ready. Get the James. Get the pillows.
No. This is not pillows ready. This is harsh on a different direction. The playoffs are complicated. There's strategy. There's layers of complexity that get added as you go. And I'm not sure Jaxson Hayes is a guy that thrives in complexity. And so I could see if I put myself in JJ Redick's shoes, I could see a scenario where it's like, I can't put in a guy who struggles to execute basic schemes into a must-win game 5 where we're already in the complex part of the series. I just can't trust him to go out there. And so obviously they lose the game and they could have used any size, even if it was out of position or not doing the right thing or whatever. But I could see his thought process being, I just don't trust this guy because he can't execute. And maybe it was as simple as that. And they were going to play the guys that they felt could execute, even if the scheme was weaker. But to me, if we had an alternate universe and we go back and Jaxson Hayes plays, if you ask me, I would say, I bet you the Lakers still lose. just in a different way. Something else, they lose in a different way. But that would be my one sort of like, devil's advocate defense of the decision.
Well, let me think. Let me look at this for a second. What's the deepest into the fourth quarter where this game was basically? So I'm looking.
It's super deep.
It's a 2-point game with 3 minutes to go,
Yeah.
and Rudy Gobert made this court his personal playground.
Yeah.
You don't think Jaxson Hayes would have disrupted enough plays? You don't think that Jaxson Hayes just bounce and legs and length are going to prevent Rudy Gobert from doing what he did in this game? And you have a 2-point game with 3 minutes to go, despite the fact that you were an abomination offensively. Like, none of those guys played well. None of them. LeBron didn't play well.
No.
Luka, I don't even know what to make of Luka's game offensively, because it was like hard for me to stop looking at how bad he was limping around.
I know.
And then have a little burst and then make a shot and then limp back again and then hobble up the court and then get the ball and go quick for a second and then hobble again. I was like, can't tell. Is this guy need to be in traction, or is he okay? Like, I don't know. I guess considering the circumstances, if his back was that bad, I guess he played okay. I thought LeBron was absolutely subpar, in Austin Reaves, like I said, it's one of the worst games I've seen him play in 2 years. And despite that, you're down 2 in a night when Rudy Gobert just completely eviscerates you. I don't know how you can reconcile that, man. If you're JJ Redick, I just don't know what he could possibly say to make me go, oh, okay, that's what you were thinking. It's not, Adam, it's one thing to go into a game with a thought process or a series.
Right.
You can't watch that for that many possessions and that many minutes without knowing you got a 6'11", really athletic guy down there that at least can challenge Rudy Gobert for some of the stuff he's getting around the rim. I'm just saying, man. But you know what? He was determined, and now they got beat 4-1 by a 6 seed.
Yeah. I mean, it was a 6 seed, but these two teams were evenly matched. They're separated by 1 game. In my opinion, this is the story of the Western Conference playoffs so far. Outside of Oklahoma City, I think there was one bad team in the West playoffs this year, and that was Memphis. It's not to take, and one great team in the West, that's Oklahoma City. So that series was obviously lopsided. But you look at Rockets, Warriors, you look at Nuggets, Clippers, you look at this one, that's pretty even. This just feels like a pretty even split. One team gets home court advantage, and that's what this series was. But let's go to the Austin Reaves part of this, but I want to take a Timberwolves slay, and I don't want to I want to go hard on the Lakers a little bit to the end, but I really want to praise this Wolves team because I believe in them. I just think they're an incredible team. And when you talk about Austin Reaves having a tough series, he is a craft guard more than he is a quick guard. He uses a lot of craft. He draws fouls. He gets people off balance and does stuff. I think the Timberwolves are so good at shutting down that type of guard. It happened to Jamal Murray, same thing, not a quick burst guy, a craft guy last year, because they're so physical and they're allowing a lot of physicality. I want to ask you about that here in a minute, not just in this series, but across the board. But they're so long, so physical that craft stuff just doesn't work on them. And I'm not surprised Austin Reaves had a difficult time. Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Anthony Edwards, those guys can shut that type of player down, and it's one of their superpowers. They did it in the series to where Austin Reaves was a non-factor. He was just a guy out there. So to me, that's a strength of the Timberwolves, and it's going to serve them in the coming series.
I love the take. So let me reference some guys on that team defensively. Go back a year ago, Luka, because what does work against that is brute strength.
Yep.
Or blazing quickness.
Quickness, yep. Real quickness.
Like blazing quickness, though, not just like, oh, he's pretty quick. I'm talking about you got to be 2 steps by those guys because of their length coming from behind. So I'm talking about next level quickness or brute strength. Luka last year operated against them by using his shoulders and his weight and how wide he is, and he'd get him on his hip and he'd take his time and then he'd bounce you with his shoulder, lean back, hit a shot.
Yep.
Well, you're 100% right about Austin Reaves. He is not blazing quick, and he doesn't use his strength against guys to get shots. It's all herky-jerky behind the back, that little crossover move. He loves that little behind-the-back move to get to his step back. He's not creating enough space against Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and those guys. Dante even. He's just not doing that. So he was bottled up. The turnovers were surprising because he's a really smart player. He doesn't turn the ball over very much. He had 6 turnovers, and some of those like in the beginning of the game, he had a couple in the first half. He just looked like a tired player would make those turnovers. Not like it was being forced on him. Now, some of the ones in the second half they were up in him and they were pressuring him. He had no answer for it. So that's when you count on the physicality of LeBron and Luka. All right, you two guys, get us through this because your strength can overpower those guys that I just mentioned. And they weren't able to do that either. And at the end of the day, Rudy Gobert was always back there as the last line, just waiting and waiting. So Minnesota and Anthony Edwards, he competes defensively. Conley competes. DiVincenzo competes. Like all their guys compete. Naz Reid, like all of them. This is a team now that you're right, Adam. They look like a real problem. And so they're sitting there. They're going to get the winner of this Golden State-Houston series. And I think a lot of people are going to favor Minnesota to win that series because of the way they look right now, how good they have become defensively, and they can win a game like this. Ugly, low scoring, low possession. And sometimes playoff games look like that. One or two a series are going to look like that at least.
Yep.
And they're able to win those because they've also got a very good closing player in Anthony Edwards who can break you down or hit a deep shot. So I agree with you, man. Give Minnesota all the credit in the world. I think JJ Redick and the Lakers made it easier for them.
Yeah.
But I do think Minnesota was the better team over the period of 5 games. You can't deny that. I just wish I had seen an adjustment out of the Lakers to give me a better idea of how that could have affected the series. Maybe it wouldn't at all. Maybe Minnesota wins it anyway. Maybe Minnesota goes right. Maybe if the Lakers win, go back and win game 6 and it's over, whatever. But I think the Lakers made it easier for those guys. But give them credit, man, because they're very impressive defensively with what they do.
And you mentioned the fourth quarter dominance or the clutch dominance. They outscored the Lakers by 42 points in fourth quarters in the series. It's only a 5-game series, so that's a lot, almost 10 points a game to outscore them at every fourth quarter. Now, here's the thing. There's 2 guys that I think we have to now spend some time on, and Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. And I actually want to start on Julius Randle, who had a great series and had a great game. He was the closer in this one. And the whole premise, I think, of when you got Julius Randle, and we didn't see it till halfway through the year, did it really kind of make sense for me, was you had Cat, he could floor space, he could score on his own, he could do some stuff. You knew you were shifting more towards Ant being your primary guy, and that teams were going to try to trap Ant. That was the whole thing. Their teams, and this is what the Lakers did. They're going to blitz and trap Ant. So when we get the ball out of his hands, who does it find and what can they do? And Julius Randle is very good at attacking in those situations and scoring if you're undersized, or making the kick out to the open guy. And I just thought he did a phenomenal job of that in this series. And if they are going to win a championship this year, or even just make the finals, it's going to be because of that. Anthony putting so much pressure on the defense that you have to trap him. Randle making teams punishing teams on the outlet. Randle was phenomenal in the clutch in this series, but in this game, making exactly the right reads and coming up with the scores when he needed to.
Totally agree with you. And Julius Randle was so impressive in this series because he had a lot of possessions where he ended up having to go right at LeBron and match his strength. There were a number of times, man, where he would go at LeBron. LeBron would do a decent job of the initial cutoff and then take one in the chest. Yes. And you don't see LeBron give a ton of ground usually on that situation, like a little, but not enough where he can't still contest or bother the guy. Julius Randle was creating 6-8 feet of space. Yep. He was hitting him with his right shoulder or left shoulder, and then going to that little lean back left-handed shot in the paint. And LeBron was so far back on his heels from absorbing that first contact, he couldn't get back to contest the shot. He was strong around the rim, like coming up with those 50-50 type rebounds that were hitting the ground. There'd be 3 guys around. Also, Julius Randle's ripping the ball out of there. So I just thought his toughness, his hard hat mentality that he plays with, that on nights in New York, maybe when he didn't shoot well, that's all people focused on. I felt like, hey, yeah, he put it together. Look, he had 4 games in this series where he shot basically 50%. He had one rough shooting game 4. But for the most part, he shot 48% from the field for this series. So he was efficient too. He's not the number one guy like he was on some of those Knicks teams that lost and he didn't play well in the postseason. Now that physicality, like who cares about that? I need this guy to make buckets in pressure moments. That's why he wasn't there anymore. He goes to Minnesota. You got Anthony Edwards there. You got him. He's going to take most of the pressure offensively if things don't go well. So just be efficient, but be powerful and strong and tough and all the things he naturally is. And it showed up in a big way, I thought, in this series.
And that's part of what makes him valuable is he is versatile with the ball. He can dribble. He can do some stuff. He can break, a basic big off of the dribble. He can break him down. But then if you put a non-big on him, even a LeBron James, he's too strong. And I said this coming into the series, and I know there were people in the chat. I hope they speak up and raise their hand and say, I'm sorry. Because I said Julius Randle is one of the few guys that is stronger than LeBron. And if they go toe to toe, Randle is just, I don't know what it is. His body is made of bricks or something. He's so big. He pushes even big bodied guys out of the way. And I'm glad you brought it up because that 100% happened throughout the series. Randle was too strong for LeBron at this age. Maybe in his prime, he could have stood his ground a little bit more. But when it was just mano-a-mano, he had the strength to get by him. And and by the way, this happened, this happens to other great big players. Paul Millsap was big. I mean, obviously I'm here in Denver, so I see it a lot. He way too big for Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap's a true big. Aaron Gordon's one of the strongest guys in the NBA. Julius Randle bullies him as well. He's just insanely strong. And then the skill set and the willingness to buy in to me is a big part of this because Julius Randle is not a guy that I think has always understood what percentage of the team he owns. I always think he thinks it's about 10 or 20% more. But for some reason, he has really bought into Anthony Edwards. Maybe it's because he gets to do the things he likes to do, but now there's a sequence that happens to get him there. But he really yields to Anthony Edwards in a way that's important. But then when you trap Ant, he can step into that limelight. So Julius Randle, give Tim Conley credit. That has turned out to be a great trade because he has fit, not just because it's like, we didn't lose much when we lost Cat. No, he actually just fits better, I think, in this type of things that the Wolves need.
And listen, from the other side of it, I think it was actually important for Julius Randle to get out of New York. So I think it actually helped the Knicks too, because I think that was going to be hard for Julius Randle. He'd had some playoff performances where he was subpar from what he was in the regular season. And again, as like one of the primary, like we need you to go score. They don't really need it as much on this team. Yes, it's important. He got 22 points a game in this series. Yeah, I'm not saying the guy can go get 10 a game. He's got to score, but he's not where all the attention is focused. That's on another player. So I think it was important actually for the Knicks to move on from him because I think it was going to be hard for Julius Randle in New York, man. When you start carrying that kind of, it's the same thing in Philly. And when you have a couple of playoffs in a row where you don't play as well as you did in the regular season, that next year you go into the playoffs, it's like the weight of the world is already around you before game one of the first round. It's like, man, you better come through tonight. And so I think that's just that Northeast mentality is very difficult to continue to stay in that uniform and expect it to turn around. Now they ended up you get Brunson and maybe that could have changed things, but he still had the previous playoffs that he was carrying with him. So I think it was important actually for the Knicks and for Julius Randle too. So I think this probably worked out for both teams. I'm not sure the Knicks would have been as good with him as opposed to Karl-Anthony Towns, who's played very well as a Knick.
Yeah,
so I think it worked for both organizations, but make no mistake, Minnesota deserves a lot of credit because this trade was absolutely criticized when it was made.
Yep.
Almost universally across the board from the Timberwolves perspective, how in the world could you make this trade? And the fit early wasn't great. Like, man, Julius Randle and Gobert, like how do they don't fit together. This doesn't work. And look where they're at now, man. And I give Chris Finch a lot of credit too, because I think he was under some heat halfway through the season. I think he was feeling it a little bit. Look at what they did to end the year and then what they just did in this round. And like I said, man, I think that they've got a great shot now to potentially get to the conference finals. So
no question.
Give Chris Finch all the credit in the world. He hung in there. The organization hung in there. They didn't overreact. They didn't pull a Michael Malone, right? Or a Taylor Jenkins. They stayed with Chris Finch through it all. And whatever vision he had is working out right now because they, especially defensively, this is something that's very formidable.
Yeah. And I thought last night's game shows the difference or the growth in Anthony Edwards. 15, 11, and 8. Not a great stat line. 0 of 11 from the three-point line. Could not find a shot. Some of them were tough shots. Some of them were good ones. But why I say this was an important one, it's important to be able to control a game. And he controlled this game, in my opinion, to control a game when your shot's not falling. And we talked last year going into the playoffs about how Ant's ability to bend the defense and make the right play was a work in progress. He was showing signs of growth, but not really to the level that he needs to be. He's so young, and he is close now. To me, he's still not like a Luka or a LeBron or a Jokic or those types of guys at doing this, but he's on his way to, because last night I thought he just did a great job of not forcing ugly things, but of drawing the defenders out, getting the ball where it was supposed to be, and making the right plays. And he did it with confidence. So Anthony Edwards, to me, 15, 11, and 8, a lot of people are going to say off night, and they're right, off night shooting. I thought he was great, and I thought he won the game for them with his control.
Oh, totally agree with that, man. Totally agree with you. Listen, I was watching at no point, and look, for me personally, like I'm not rooting for anybody, but other than if Lakers win the game, I get to call a game on Friday night. I'm a little disappointed, and it would have been that game. We were on standby, man. We couldn't even book travel. Like I was like this, waiting to book my travel if the Lakers won the game, so I could make sure I got a flight. But so I want to call a game. That would have been a lot of fun. Game 6 in Minnesota, closeout game potentially. But so I was a little disappointed from that standpoint. I don't really care who wins. I was amazed at a team like the Lakers with LeBron James on it, Luka on it, looked like that with their season on the line at home. Yeah. I thought they looked awful the whole game, with exception of little bursts. And think about this. We talked about the Minnesota Timberwolves 3-point shooting. If they make, they were just ridiculously bad. If they just make another, 4 or 5, they missed 40 of them. Let's just say they made another 5 of those 40. They win this game by 20. I believe it. That's how bad this was for the Lakers. Also, if Rui Hachimura doesn't play the way he did, they probably lose this game by 20. So it was a man handling that went on. And here's what's crazy to me. I didn't vote for JJ Redick in any of my top 3 for coach of the year. I went with JB Bickerstaff, Kenny Atkinson, and Ime Udoka. Yeah. Those are the 3 guys that I voted for in that order. Some people did give JJ Redick votes for coach of the year. And
I thought it was a regular season award, and I thought he did a good job in the regular season. I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, no, listen, it is a regular season award, and I understand why some people would go there. It's the guy had no experience. You look at the Lakers, they ended with a 3 seed in the West. Like, he managed some injuries, everything else, right? Roster not probably what he wanted. I agree. I mean, I just chose not to. He probably would have been top 5 for me, but not top 3. But the point I'm making is a lot of the people that voted for him, and a lot of the people, I think, in the LA media right now, a lot of people are questioning him. And it's justified. You did something in the previous game that's never been done in the history of the NBA playoffs. Play 5 guys for an entire half. That's never happened before. Yeah. He did it. They lost. Now, I'm not saying they were gassed last night. They had 2 full days off and most of a third day. So that didn't play into last night, the fatigue factor. But the stubbornness and the lack of utilization and understanding when you can plug and play and get a few minutes out of this guy, a few minutes out of this guy, and particularly the Jaxson Hayes component, he's going to have to take that into the summer, man, with an awful lot of scrutiny, criticism, and it's all justified. And I'm not sure exactly what the Lakers do this offseason, but he finished the year with a lot of question marks, as opposed to the end of the regular season when he was getting a lot of credit for what he did this year. I think a lot of people now are questioning him, and I think it's all justified based on the way they handled this series.
I think coaching in the NBA is tough. I thought he did a great job for most of the year, but you were right, man. The playoffs, they reveal just how tough this battle is. And to be fair, I think the Lakers had a flawed roster. It's you see some teams who have enormous amount of versatility and depth, and it's like, oh man, they made so many adjustments. Well, they have a lot of guys. I do think that the Lakers don't have a very deep roster, don't have a very versatile one, and there's only so much you can do. But to your point, there's still a lot of criticisms you can levy at him. The Timberwolves look good. The Lakers now, the Timberwolves to me now look as good as anyone not named OKC. Like if you just look across the board in the Western Conference, who's impressed you the most? I'm very impressed with the Timberwolves and what they were able to pull off. So I'm excited to see them in the next round, whether it's Houston or Golden State. And on the other side, the Lakers, this shows you, first of all, let me get your take on this. We talked about it the other day. Luka now has a narrative around him based on everything that Nico Harrison did, trading him and saying this or that. And you watch this series, it's not like he didn't have time to ramp up and get ready for this. He just doesn't look good. He looks worse than he did last year. Some of this is probably roster construction and not having a diving big, but he just doesn't look good. He doesn't physically look like he is the guy that we kind of expect. And now he has to face the LA media for an offseason. I just think that the narrative on him is going to shift, and no one is going to enter next season with more pressure on them than Luka Doncic.
I completely agree with everything you just said. I think he looks slow. He looks sluggish. He's never like blown by guys, but his first step was legitimately quick enough because of his ability to shoot the step back three, and he's clever with the ball, and he's so damn big. Like his first step was much quicker than it is now. And it's an enormous part of the threat that he represents and how he constantly has you on your heels. But I will say this, I don't know. Look, he missed a lot of time. He came back. So he missed normally Luka would not show up in great shape. By the end of camp was better. By the end of the first month, he started to hit his stride. And then for the next 3 or 4 months, he completely dominated you every night. That was his MO in Dallas. This year, because everything happened so late for him, by the time he joined the team and started playing, they weren't practicing anymore at all. So I think Luka started behind the 8 ball to start the year. He finished there. Now, look, I'm not giving him an excuse, because there's a lot of guys that could have started halfway through the season. They started their year, and it was even later than that for him, and still done everything they had to do off the court to get themselves in peak physical condition. He didn't do that. So he's not one of those guys, man, that's a grinder. And I get it, but he definitely had his year disrupted. This is a massive offseason for Luka. He's got to come out at the start of next year and look like the guy at his best in Dallas. If he can do that, and I'm not talking about by Christmas, I mean in the beginning of the year, because you got a lot of people looking at you now too, Luka. You better do something to come in more prepared as a leader and more prepared to start the year looking like the guy at his best midseason in Dallas. Yep. That's what you have to do from the beginning. And if you can do that, he'll start to restore some of that faith in him that he can lead a team on a deep postseason run. But right now, all questions about him are 100% fair. Now, the only thing I'll say is you can't sit here and say to me, well, Dallas, see, they knew what they were doing. They won the trade. Right, really? Right. Where's Anthony Davis?
That's too far. I mean, that's too far. We're going too far there.
What are you talking about? Anthony Davis got there, went up and down the court 10 times, and then sat for 6 weeks. So that's way too early for that. And that's why I said at the beginning, this is going to be judged 5 years from now is when really it's going to be judged, because you got to look at what's going to happen to the two franchises. And what is Luka going to do in LA to win?
For sure.
That's what the whole thing will be based on. In one postseason, you can't judge it because Dallas wasn't even a part of it.
Next season will be unlike any season Luka has faced, in my opinion, because he will enter the season with more criticism, more spotlight, more questions than he has ever faced before. Some of them fair, some of them not. But that's what you get when you go to LA, and with everything that happened, that is now the story, and he's just never faced it. And it's going to be interesting to see how he responds, because he does, in my opinion, need to lose weight, needs to become more serious, needs to become a better leader. It's not just the skill. It's not just what you pull off. It's all these other things. And now he's wearing the heaviest crown, being in the brightest spotlight.
Can I say one more thing, and we'll move on to the next game? So here's one thing that I've always questioned about Luka. And, I've been, for the most part, a Luka believer.
You're an appreciator.
I am, man. And because the talent is undeniable, and he has been to a finals and a conference finals. He's 25 years old. Very few 25-year-olds have led teams to 2 deep runs like that. Very few, historically. So I'm not giving up on Luka. But the one thing I will say, they only won 50 games this year, and he only joined the Lakers late February, so this isn't even his team. But the one thing he hasn't done, why aren't you leading a team to 60 wins? Why aren't you leading a team that's challenging for the top of the West? He never did that in Dallas. They didn't do it this year, and he wasn't part of it really with the Lakers, and they dug their way out of a hole to get to 3, so I guess I get some credit for that. But that is the challenge. Like, Oklahoma City is not only the best team now in the West, they're going to be the best team next year and the year after and the year after.
Staying power, yeah.
They are. They just are. Because of their age and the talent, how good their organization is, they're exceptionally well coached. I don't see anything changing there. They are the gold standard, and they're going to continue to be in the West. But that doesn't mean you can't be second. Go win 60 games. If you're the best player on the Lakers and you are Luka Doncic with everything you've accomplished in your career. So one thing he hasn't done, he's always on these 48 to 50 win teams.
Yeah.
That's not good enough. And the reason is because he's not ready when the season starts to do that. And that is the challenge, man. And that's the challenge that has to be issued to him from JJ Redick, from the organization. Now, he might one ear out the other for all I know. I don't know what Luka's going to do this summer. But if he's a winner and a competitor, okay, and he doesn't want his legacy to fall down this road that it's headed toward, then this, not just next 3 years, next year, he needs to start next year like that, get the Lakers out of the gate quickly, compete for the top of the West most of the year. They're not going to win as many games as OKC. You can win 60. You should, depending what they do with the rest of their roster. He hasn't done that. You know, he's always in the middle of the pack. That says something about him.
Yeah. Pressure's on him now. Eyeballs are on him. Spotlight is on him. We'll see how he handles it. And we'll see what happens with the rest of it. LeBron, does he come back? Does he retire? What does he do? I mean, you know, all those questions surround them and how they handle their roster from here. So big offseason for the Lakers and a big second round coming up for Minnesota. Who they will face, the Rockets or the Warriors? Let's talk about that game on the other side, because I think that series is still very much wide open. And while we go to break, let us know what you think about tonight's games. Detroit Knicks, Nuggets, Clippers. Let us know in the chat. I want to see. Keep an eye on this, producer James. I want to see who you're picking in both of those. First, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. FanDuel is giving away all new customers $250 in bonus bets. If you join FanDuel today, you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. From three-pointers to steals and assists, FanDuel has so many ways for you to bet on your favorite teams and player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Maybe you already have a sense of what's going to happen in the next round, and maybe you feel how you know now after seeing one round of the playoffs or almost one full round. You think you know who's going to win it? You could put a future bet right now on who you think will be the NBA champ on FanDuel, and if your bet hits, you're going to get that bonus bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to get in on all of the NBA playoff action. That's FanDuel.com/AllNBA for your shot at $250 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Also want to tell you guys about Vivid Seats. The NBA playoffs are underway, so there's no better time to be in the arena experiencing the playoff intensity in person. If you're trying to catch your team live this postseason, let us tell you about our friends at Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the best place to get your tickets for any live event. They have the best selection of games and seats, and every purchase is backed by their 100% buyer guarantee. Plus, Vivid Seats is the only ticket marketplace that rewards you for every purchase. So download the Vivid Seats apps and start earning rewards towards free tickets. New Vivid Seats users, use our promo code ALLNBA30, and you'll receive $30 off their purchase of $300 or more. Once again, click the link in the show notes right below, and either on YouTube or your podcast app. Go to vividseats.com or download the Vivid Seats app and use promo code ALLNBA30 for $30 off your first purchase of $300 or more. When it comes to playoff basketball, being there is all that matters, so experience it live with Vivid Seats. All right, back here on the All-NBA show with me and Tim Legler. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you like this show. Comment below. Let us know. Just help us grow this channel and grow this show. The Rockets get the win 131-116. That sounds like it was somewhat close, Legs. It was not. This game was over 4 minutes into the second period. The rest of the game was window dressing. They had at one point more than doubled the Warriors' score. And you talked about coming out flat. Look, I give the Rockets credit because I think they're a tough team. They made some very interesting adjustments. I want to get to it. But before we get to the adjustments, I thought the Warriors forgot they had a game today. Jimmy Butler comes out, taking a couple threes, no dribble penetration, not getting into the paint. They were on the mat before this, right as this game started. I give the Rockets credit, but I want to start by talking about the Warriors and what they brought to this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Obviously, guys that have been around the block a few times, like Steve Kerr, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, right? That group, they didn't mail this in, but they got it taken to them to such an extent at the beginning of the game. They kind of lost their will a little bit in the first half. I mean, Houston was shooting out of their mind. It was really incredible, actually, to watch a team on the brink of elimination at home when there's more pressure as a shooter at home, because you hear it more from the crowd if you struggle in the playoffs, to look that confident. I mean, even Amen Thompson at one point teed one up from the 3-point line, and the reaction of the bench was hilarious. Like Şengün, like these guys are all laughing because it's like, wow, even Amen's feeling it from out there. The way they shot the ball was incredible. Everybody, Van Vliet was so dialed in at the start of the game. Dillon Brooks was really good. Şengün was really good. And the Warriors were awful. But I do think a big part of it was the defense that Amen Thompson was playing on Curry completely took them out of their rhythm in the beginning of the game. And you know what? For all the qualities we want to give Jimmy Butler and all the accolades and what he's meant to this team, and it's all true, he's a slow starter, man. So if Steph Curry is being locked up early, Jimmy Butler doesn't start the game like, hey, man, I'm going to go get 16 in the first quarter if it's there for me. He wants to feel the game, that whole thing. I'm going to kind of feel the game, get a little sweat going. I'll pick my spots. I'll be really good late if I need to be, but I'm perfectly fine getting 6 points if we win. Well, when Steph Curry is completely bottled up and they're high-siding him and Amen Thompson is stripping him and using his length and he's running in mud, Jimmy Butler's not the kind of guy to go, all right, let me have the ball for the next 7 minutes in the first quarter and I'm going to keep us in the game. He doesn't think that way. So as a result, he's kind of feeling his way while Curry's locked up and they're making everything on the other end. Boom, look up. It's a 20-point game in the first quarter. Game over. Game over. It was it. And so first, your thoughts on what I just said, because I want to talk about what happened after that because it was really kind of fascinating. But what do you think about that? What I said about Butler, like at the start of the game, he's not, feeling it right off Jump Street. He's just not. He likes to feel his way. And Curry was so ineffective early. They're down 20. Jimmy Butler maybe could have done more to stem the tide right there, I think.
I think we'll find out in game 6 because I think that there will be a repeat here. That's clear that they're going to try to get physical with Steph. They're going to try to get into him, and they have the defenders that can handle it, including Amen Thompson. So I think you're right that Jimmy Butler has to start game 6 better than this. And you are right that it's a trend of his that he likes to kind of fill out the game. Well, this game was gone. And by the way, not just him, Draymond, I thought the whole team had a little bit of like nonchalance to them, almost an arrogance to them in the way they approached this game of like, all right, let's see how it goes. And then we'll come back. And then it was just too far gone. But I give credit. I just want to go to the Rockets on this. I want to give credit to the teams that won this one. And I thought the Rockets and Amen Thompson in particular, the intensity and the execution on the defensive end that they brought was just impressive. This was a team that is young. They're down 3-1. Was there no quit in them. There was a confidence and an aggressiveness in them of like, no, we should be up in this series where they punch back. And they sent a message. This wasn't a small win. This is a message that says, we're not afraid. We only need to win 2 more games in this series now. Very doable. And I just was impressed with how they approached this one.
I thought Amen Thompson arguably played the best game of the season for him. I mean, he's impressive. We both love him. Just look at what he did across the board. I thought offensively he was super aggressive. With his cuts, he, like I said, made the 1 3 that he took, got to the line 9 times and made 8. That's not something that's a strength of his either. He was drawing fouls and he was finishing. 6 boards, 3 assists, 5 steals, 3 blocks. I mean, he did everything, but the main thing he did was aggressively play on the ball with Steph Curry. That meant not handing him off on switches all the time. They were much more selective when they switched. I think teams a lot of times switch and they put themselves in a very disadvantageous position. They didn't do that. He fought over as much as he could. He picked him up earlier so he could get over the first screen. He was using his reach to like twice. He stripped him on Steph on crossovers that led to transition opportunities. I just thought a guy that's been that good defensively all year, this may have been his best all-around game. He was suffocating defensively on the ball and weak side. He slashed, he shot the ball, he converted free throws, he played in transition, he played with confidence. He started to get into it with Gary Payton the one time after 3-point play, and Dillon Brooks came over and grabbed him and threw him out of there to make sure he didn't do anything stupid to start a fight or get ejected or something like that. So that give Dillon Brooks, actually, can't believe I'm saying this, but he was actually showed some leadership in that situation. But I thought Amen Thompson, this was his game. You want to put together a reel on Amen Thompson, know who he is? This was the game to put together.
Yep. And I thought their defensive game plan as a whole was really great. Their game plan in the series, I think they have done some stuff that I look at this. I know everybody's going to look at this and say, okay, Warriors didn't come prepared. They're going to close them out at home in this next one. The Rockets have some pressure points that even in the games that they have lost have been successful. And some of those are, look, they put the zone out there and they've executed the zone. A lot of teams try zone for little stints. They were able to play it a little bit more extended because of how hard they fly around and rotate, and also just some of the weaknesses of the Warriors roster. But the double big lineup, being able to go to Adams and Şengün has just been it's something I don't think the Warriors can overcome. They are plus 31 on the series. If you go with Adams and Jabari Smith, they're plus 34 in this series. So they're back up big. Just having Steven Adams in there's nobody big enough to box him out. And if you're not making shots and you're not breaking down the defense, then they're going to own the boards. And that's what happened in this game. And it's what's happened in the games they've won. And even in the ones they've lost close, they've had success there.
Well, all right. The one thing I will say, and some of this was what went on with these reserves. At one point, they were getting 4 and 5 shots at a time. They had 25 offensive rebounds.
Yeah,
20. They had more offensive rebounds than defensive rebounds in the game. But they couldn't convert any of them. And a lot of those were in the second half of the game. And the game was for the most part over. But I agree with you, everything you said about Houston's physicality and size and the difference it's made. I thought Golden State's attack against the zone was really lacking in a couple of main areas. Number one, the best thing you can do against the zone, there's a number of things. I could list them. One of the things you have to do is continue to screen on the ball when it's 25, 35 feet out. They stop screening on the ball. And if Curry wasn't on the floor in particular, there were times Podziemski was like picking the ball up and he had nowhere to go with the ball because there was no screen set. The zone was extended. The wing pass wasn't open. The middle pass was tough because there was a lot of length in front of him. So he couldn't make that pass. So then the guy in the wing would pop out to 40 feet so he could make a simple pass to the wing. That's not zone attack. You got to set ball screens, first of all, to get a second defender to pinch on the zone. Because you're still going to be able to get somebody have to help if there's a ball screen. Now the guy pitches off the wing. Now I can make the first pass to the wing more easily. That's first. Secondly, once you pass it to the wing, that guy has to move through the lane and relocate. It's almost like a wheel motion to say you're not in the same place all the time so that the defense can't shade toward the shooters. They didn't do that. The guy in the middle should be a threat to score. They put Draymond Green there. It's totally different. When Boston sees a zone, do you know who ends up in the middle quite a bit? Jason Tatum. Because it forces the zone to be so cognizant of him that they pinch in a little bit on the wings and the ball moving around the perimeter is just easier. And then the last thing is the short corner spot of the floor is critical to get it to. They didn't have anybody occupying that area. So I thought Golden State's zone offense was really poor, and it's going to be something they're going to have to look at because they're going to see it a lot again in the next game, particularly in the first half because it was very effective against them. So let's see what they do to adjust. Golden State's got one more home game in this series, man. And I think they're going to have to get it done. Now, you wouldn't rule out them winning a game 7 on the road, obviously, because you got the Curry factor and they're champions. But
totally.
But the way Houston plays defensively, they get that home crowd energizing them. That would be a very difficult task for them. So they got this opportunity to go home and close it out. They got to tighten up their zone offense. They've got to do a much better job with their starting unit at the beginning of the game with the energy they're displaying. And I think Jimmy Butler has to anticipate what they're doing to Curry. And if Jimmy Butler has to get 8 to 10 points in the first 6 minutes of the game to loosen them up, he better be mentally ready to do that.
Yeah. What about Steph? Last thing here. What about Steph Curry's thumb? This kind of went viral last night. The TNT guys were talking about it, but he's got that injured thumb and it looks like a toe. It's so swollen, man. Injury to a shooting hand is a big deal. What do you make of it?
He's been carrying this tape around, man, for a long time. And I've always marveled at the fact that he's got this thumb that's jacked up. I played with different fingers on my right hand, thumb included, that had been hyperextended. They get swollen, very tender in the joint, in the knuckle. And it absolutely affects you. And so like for Curry to have some of these nights he has playing with that, it's been pretty amazing. But here's the thing, you can go a period of time and not get it hit again, and it starts to feel better and better. And then it takes one time one time hitting it, and you're right back to square one.
So true.
Because until that thing fully heals, which is going to require an off season, anytime it gets hit, it's like he's going back
Reset.
to how it felt 6 weeks ago. So I know what he's dealing with. I know they're saying, they're feeling like they're targeting the thumb. I mean, it's a very
Dylan Brooks kind of said he was.
yeah, but I mean, it's also a hard thing to pull off without getting yourself in foul trouble. It's not like,
true. Yeah, true.
that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, you can say that. And every now and then you want to take a swipe at it, go ahead. But I mean, it's now this public thing, so the officials are cognizant of it too. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. There's one last point I want to make about this game. Let me ask you, man. At one point, were you sitting there thinking to yourself, like 3-4 minutes into the fourth quarter, am I about to watch the greatest loss in the history of professional sports?
No.
You never thought when they got the game to 13 with 8 minutes to go, and Steph Curry starts putting his ankle braces back on. You don't think so? Kerr was.
I never thought it. No,
he was pacing like a lion up and down the sidelines, looking at the clock, looking at Curry, and he's doing the math in his head. And I don't know what he must have been calculating, something like time and score in his head to put those guys back in, because they sat for a long time. It's not ideal, but I was sitting there thinking to myself, oh my goodness, are they going to lump up to the extent that this gets under 10 with 5 minutes to go? You don't think he's putting Curry and Butler back in the game? He was, and that would have got real hairy for Ime Udoka. So look, we didn't get to that point, but I'm telling you right now, man, I was starting to sweat for him, because I'm like, this is incredible that they can't guard Moses Moody and they can't guard Kevin Knox came in with 14 points.
I know.
They couldn't guard Spencer. I'm going, what the hell is going on? They locked up Curry, but they can't guard any of these guys. So I just thought it was kind of weird. I started getting like a knot in my stomach for Ime Udoka, because I know he was probably also thinking like, okay, this is getting a little bit ridiculous right now. And fortunately they got it back to like 15-16 with like 3 minutes to go. And it was like, okay.
I never felt that, because it just wasn't
Right.
quite close enough, but you are right. It would have been the worst loss ever. Let's pivot now to talk about tonight's games, because we missed, the previous games of both of these series with our travel schedules and different things. But I'll start with Nuggets Clippers. The team I'm covering closest is the Nuggets. As I've gone back and watched these last couple of games, I think they figured something out. I'm not saying that they're going to win the series or that the series is over or anything, but the thing they figured out, I think, puts a lot of pressure on the Clippers, and that is they have really figured out how to attack James Harden. And James Harden, here it is. Everybody's talking about playoff Harden. Here he goes. He's falling apart. And that is true. There's a lot about Harden that you see get exposed in the playoffs. His unwillingness to do things when the ball's not in his hands. How does he contribute to his team? He doesn't love to do that. But he's also worn down, because the Nuggets are making him the fulcrum of the Clippers defense. They have a great defense. Well, they're making James Harden be the low man or be up on ball screens or switching onto Jokic. They're just attacking him nonstop. And that's why I think the Nuggets have figured something out here about this Clippers team. We'll see how the Clippers respond. But your thoughts on just making James Harden the most important defensive player on the Clippers lessens their defensive impact?
No, I agree with that, man. And it's listen, when you get into a series, game by game, you start looking at ways you can attack differently, expose something. I think you're right. I think it has been something they have figured out offensively. He clearly struggled in the last game, and he had one of those James Harden games that he has sometimes where it's one thing when you just don't shoot well, but you look the same. He didn't look the same. No. And we've seen that. We saw it in Houston. We saw it in Philly. We've seen it before. He did it again in game 5. And he might be much better in game 6, but I think Denver's going to attack him the same way. One of the things that helped in this game, Adam, I mean, when Jamal Murray, like when he sets the tone that this is how his night's going to go, I just think they're obviously a completely different team offensively when Jamal Murray looks like that. It wasn't just, he's making shots. He had so much juice. His legs had so much juice, man. And it was Jamal Murray at his absolute best. And when that happens, and you see that, Denver is is damn near as good as anybody in the Western Conference. I mean, they could give OKC a run for the money if Jamal Murray plays like that. So that to me is a big barometer for them. So yeah, attacking Harden works. He didn't play very well. Other guys really, Westbrook played great. So they had other guys play well. But the whole thing for me was Jamal Murray just firing missiles at them from the very beginning and stayed in rhythm the entire night. What a difference it makes for them offensively and the options that they have and how much less stress their offense has when Jamal Murray looks like that.
And now tonight, we got to see if was that just a hot shooting night, or was it that the Nuggets have figured out how to free him up? I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think he's going to have 43 tonight, but I do think the Nuggets have figured out how to attack this Rockets team. And, you could attack role players. Oh, they've been going at Chris Dunn, leaving Chris Dunn open, force him to shoot. That's one thing. When it's James Harden, the Clippers can't go away from him. It's not like, oh, they're attacking Harden, we're vulnerable, let's take him out. You need Harden to be on the court, and if Denver's going to make him guard at that degree, somebody put in the chat, Harden played 79 games this year. He's probably gassed. He's older, and the Nuggets are making him put an enormous amount of energy on the defensive end. That might just take off, cut the teeth off of their offense a little bit, and that's what we're seeing. In the other series, you got the Knicks and the Pistons, and I got to be honest, man, this is 3-2, and of all the series, the Pistons, to me, have to believe that even though they're down 3-2, they could easily be up 3-2. They've had some very close games come down to the wire, and I think that this Pistons team is confident tonight going into Game 6 at home because of how tough and how consistently they play. They've had a lead in every fourth quarter. They're right there with the Knicks, and I'm so excited to see just how tough they are with their back against the wall at home.
Totally agree with you, man. And let's just look at this series. They're up 8 with 9 minutes to go in Game 1 in Madison Square Garden. Could not have possibly played better to that point. And then their youth and inexperience in that moment really showed itself. The Knicks went on a 21-0 run, and they beat the Pistons. But for 40 minutes of that game, they controlled the action.
Yep.
Then, what happened in Game 4 when they don't get the call at the end of the game? Now, they played terribly offensively in the first half of that game, but they really were dominant in the second half and put themselves in position to win. They get the call, they're going to win that game. Hardaway's making at least one, if not two of the three. Probably makes all three. And then they go right back to Madison Square Garden to get a win. Unbelievable, really. And you got Brunson like dealing with whatever. Like it's constant with him. Like you feel like he's not going to make it through a whole game unscathed. Really weird the way that game ended with him and Josh Hart standing at the scorer's table for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, waiting to check into the game because they both went out with injuries, and then Thibodeau didn't want to burn his last time out. So they went literally 2 to 2.5 minutes of game time in the fourth quarter with the game on the line without those guys on the floor. Really bizarre set of events, but give Detroit credit. They went in there, Adam, and they walked around like they owned it, and they expected to win that game. It's unbelievably impressive what they've done. I think they're going to win Game 6, and you're going to get a Game 7 in Madison Square Garden with an enormous amount of pressure on. I think Brunson will be fine, but, Karl-Anthony Towns, he had similar type pressure a year ago. He struggled with that. Thibodeau's going to be feeling the pressure. That affects your coaching. They lose to the Pistons, his job could be in jeopardy. So I think Pistons win tonight, and I think they force a Game 7 in Madison Square Garden, and it's really one of the great stories of the year, what Detroit has done with this turnaround.
You think we get one Game 7 or two? These are our last chances. These are our last. Yes, there you also. I'll throw Houston and Golden State in there as well, because that's another chance for a Game 7. So between those three, those are the only series still going. How many Game 7s do we get?
I think we get 2.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
Golden State ends it at home. I think the Clippers and Pistons win at home. I think we get Game 7. We get 2 Game 7s. They're both Saturday, right? Both of those?
Yeah. They would be Saturday.
2 Game 7s on Saturday. By the way, we talked a lot about how great the first round was going to set up to be, this, that, and the other. So we got, 8-1, 12-2. I'm looking at the winning teams. The other 3 teams that have already won in the East, 12-2 in those 3 series.
Yeah,
in the Western
Conference, East would be that way. We knew the East would go that way.
Western Conference, 4-0, 4-1. It's 8-1, and then you got 2 still remaining. So it's been more lopsided than you would think based on the hype that, the first round was getting. Now, these two series, the Clippers Nuggets been weird because you've had some like blowouts in a really close series. I don't know what happens tonight. I don't think the Clippers blow them out, but I do think they get it to a game 7. And I think the Pistons feel so good about themselves right now. And I don't know, with Brunson not being 100% healthy, I think they get this to get Madison Square Garden. And man, oh man, what a pressure cooker that's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with you on Detroit. I'm going to take Denver tonight. Look, I'm not going to be surprised if Denver loses, but I kind of like what I'm seeing from Denver these last 2 games. So I think they're going to continue it on the road and close that series out. But we'll see. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think. Let's get to our super chats here before we get out, Legs. What do we have? Carrot Hammer says, not going to lie, watched Houston for the first time last night. Minnesota versus Houston would be such an intriguing series. Not sure what will happen this year, though. It would be intriguing in that it would be like 85-83 every game with 2 ejections.
That's probably about right. That's a good call.
But I do think those 2 teams, man, I love both of them. So I'll watch. I'll tune in. Is that all we got?
That's all we got today.
Hit that outro music, James. Everybody, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us on the show. It's good to be back, Legs. We'll be back.
Yeah, man, really good to be back. Tomorrow's good, and tomorrow's going to be a great one because these are going to be really good games tonight, man.
Then one of us will get to say, I told you so. We're both on Detroit tonight, push forcing to game 7, but opposite sides of this Clippers-Denver's one. Let's see. I might have rose-colored glasses on, but we'll find out tomorrow. Everybody hit that like button. We will be back. Don't miss it. See you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.